on this serious Sunday. Now today I'm going to not be motivated by stuff that's coming up on the news, much as I'd love to talk about Trump or Brexit, all these kind of things, etc., which are all, you know, the world is falling apart, these kind of things, etc. But I thought I would talk about an extension from last week's topic, because since I covered that thing about Caster Semenya, there's a few really interesting points that were made in the comments, and I thought I would just go a little bit further and talk about gender and sports, for example. Particularly because, you know, I welcomed all the feedback, and it was really nice interacting with some of you on your thoughts on that video, and a lot of really, really good points. And it kind of crystallized a couple of things for me as well about this sort of Star Trek idea of how everyone should compete all together and how that would be much better for everyone. But I'm just going to make it as clear as I can. So I'm going to try and explain what my thing is about sport and about representations of gender. Okay. So the first thing I would say is this, is that as we all know from the past, sports are things that I mentioned in my last video that women are or have been prohibited from taking part in. So it wasn't seemly, it wasn't done, it wasn't right. Sweating isn't something a woman should do. These days we're much more, you know, embracing of this idea that women work hard, they play hard, they need products to enable them to work hard and play hard. And again, you know, we're sold this idea now that on TV that women are active and going out there and doing these things, and it's always a little bit cynical because it's usually trying to sell a product or trying to, you know, to get something there. But these are much more accepted ideals. We know there are massive gulfs in society still today. We know that when it comes to things like the respectability of women's soccer versus, oh, I said soccer. Oh, women's football versus men's football. We know that there is a bit of a gap there. There's a small gap in terms of pay and respectability between the higher levels of those sports. But we also know that those things are entirely financially motivated, and because that big money machine just keeps churning, there really isn't a lot that you're ever going to get to do to make that change, to get someone to, for example, and this would be, I think, the view, to diminish the quality of men's football by introducing women. Men's football would need to take a nosedive in quality, I think that would be the argument, in order to introduce women or have women play alongside them. I used to have this argument based purely on a physical level, based purely on physical ability to run and move around, etc. This was 20, 30 years ago, when, I'll be quite frank, when women's football came on the TV, the quality level between today and then, it's vastly different. When I was a child and there would be like the Women's FA Cup match or some Women's World Cup type match will come on the TV, so rarely. The quality level back then, it's visibly different. I don't notice any difference, you know, in quality of sport played by men at the top level. I don't notice a huge difference in the quality of tennis, for example, that's played by Roger Federer versus Novak Djokovic versus Pete Sampras, going all the way back to, you know, the likes of Agassi and those guys, even further back. McEnroe, for example. I think McEnroe would hold his own on a court with a lot of the modern guys, and subject to the modern training methods that they have, I think McEnroe would be a force today if he was a young guy coming up through the sport. I think this is a general thing that we just have to accept, is that men's sports, because they've been played for so much longer, they're kind of plateauing. Women's sports are offering, to my mind, generically, a lot more growth, and we're seeing more demonstrable growth. We're seeing more records being broken. We're seeing more improvements in the quality of, let's say, team sports that have been played, particularly sports that women weren't particularly involved in. And in my lifetime, I can say football, women's football has come on massively, massively. Now, that all happens with a much weaker grassroots support for women's football. It happens with much less funding, with much less emphasis in schools, and less fathers or mothers pushing their kids into sport, because, again, we still have these kind of gender stereotypes that girls don't do this. A friend of ours has a girl who's fantastic at football. She's really good, and, you know, I hope she goes on because there aren't so many people doing it, proportionally, she has a much better chance of making it to the top level of women's sport than the average boy has of making it to the top level of men's sport. But she will never have the support, the encouragement, the financial backing that you get if you are at the top of the men's game. Just something of a fact. Now, here is my suggestion. So let's say that we want to address sport in general, we want to make things fairer. My suggestion is, just to build on last week's conversation, do this. Firstly, I can't influence football at the professional level. You can't influence the World Cup. FIFA, I mean, they're one of the world's most corrupt organisations. Money talks. There's no way they're going to do anything, even to be progressive, even to be fair. They're not going to do anything that interrupts the flow of cash. So, where is there no cash? Schools. There's no cash on the local park. There's no cash of any note in the local junior amateur leagues. So, there are already, and this is a demonstrable fact, in primary school, until children reach puberty, there's virtually no, and in many cases there is absolutely no difference in physical development between boys and girls. Boys and girls develop in terms of height, in terms of muscle mass, in terms of strength. They develop at the same range. We have to breed into girls the idea that they're weak. We have to encourage them to not do sports in order to make them weak when they are, young kids, because they are easily as strong as a boy. A girl can beat up the average boy at the age of 8, 9, not saying that's something they should be doing, but they can out-arm wrestle them if they happen to be one of those bigger girls, one of those taller girls. My daughter's a tall girl for her age. She's heading towards being 5'8", 5'9", that kind of height when she's grown up. So she is easily as big. She's in the top 10% of her 10-20% of her class in terms of height and strength and size and speed, because there's no real difference between kids. So let's get kids playing these sports together. There's no reason why you should have any form of boys sports and girls sports. We could easily have boys and girls playing sports together and simply extend that as far as we can through the chain, trying to make sports, wherever possible, to some degree gender neutral. Okay, again, some people hate this and be interfering with stuff, and why do we have to do these things? But I like this idea, particularly in sports that aren't supposed to make an awful lot of money, like amateur athletics. The Olympics is supposed to be it's for amateurs, it's not supposed to be for professionals. So it's weird that there's so much money in it, but from sponsorships and endorsements and all that kind of stuff, but so be it. The point is that we could take any sport, to my mind, and we can convert that sport to one that is gender neutral and doesn't have any form of gender bias. Now, put it this way. If you said that in every school you can expect a 50-50 makeup of boys and girls, if you said that the school football team, when you present a school football team of under 8s, under 9s, under 10s, it has to be 50-50 girls and boys. Okay, leave the goalkeeper out of it. But on the outfield, 50-50 girls and boys. 5 girls, 5 boys. Easy. So you have to pick 5 girls, 5 boys. Which means that if you're a school and you want to do well, it means that if you are a district and you want to do well, you have to put as much effort into training the girls as you do the boys. It's a simple fact. Now, if you tend to take that through as kids get older, we know that when you get to 11, 12, 13, 14, boys are going to shoot up. They're going to develop more muscle. They're going to get faster, and they're going to be able to move beyond girls. But I would make an argument, which is that if girls and boys have trained together consistently for many years, and they have come up in parity, there is still this possibility. A very highly skilled girl will be able to use skill to keep up with a less skilled boy who develops strength naturally to an age where girls are not supposed to be able to compete with boys anymore. I'd make that argument that a skilled girl could potentially go on playing against 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, etc., based purely on the skill, particularly if that skill is challenged by stronger boys, is challenged by stronger, or let's say challenged by other stronger skilled boys. We don't stop a boy playing football because they happen to be small and all the other boys are big and are obviously stronger than them. You know, if you've got a skillful young boy who's smaller than the other kids, that boy might turn out to be, you know, there are plenty of players in the Premier League who are 5'8". They're 5'7". They are small people who are skilled and gifted. Now, ultimately, there will be a disparity, and that strength might play out. But if you have kept this enforcement that it's 50-50 and you try and push that on, every 5 years we raise it by another year. So let's say every 5 years we say, look, we're now 50-50 all the way up to 16. Let's push it to 17. Let's push it to 18. Let's push it to the junior national teams. Let's push it to the under 15s club teams. And you can push this and it doesn't do anything to cause massive problems for your homegrown boys talent, but it does just encourage a better amateur game. If it's professional, you're always going to struggle because people are going to say you can't interfere with the money. Fine, but you can at least enforce some level of equality and some level of sense that you play together and you cooperate together for longer within your genders, and you don't develop this idea of I'm stronger, you're weaker, therefore I can do more, you can do less. That's my view. Now, Olympics. I had a really good idea. I was talking to someone the other day, they responded to my comment on YouTube, and I thought, okay, fine, I'll respond to them. I've got a really, really good idea. Here's how you do it in the Olympics. You want gender parity, okay? Here's how you do it in the Olympics, okay? This does nothing for Caster Semenya, by the way, but this will do a lot for gender parity. If you said that in the 100 meters, for example, every country that fields an entrant into the 100 meters must field 2 entrants. One is the woman and one is a man. So you field 2 entrants into the 100 meters. They each run their races and the medals are assigned based on the combined results of your pair. So if your pair between them run the fastest time as a pair, they get the gold medal. Now, you would have to elect your pairs. So as let's say the USA says, right, our #1 male sprinter is this guy, our #1 female sprinter is this guy. We put them together and we make a pairing. Now, it is possible that if Jamaica had a male sprinter that was even better and a female sprinter was just a little bit worse, that combined, pairing would result in an overall lower time and they'd get the gold. The point is that all that would force is this. Yes, I know everyone's going to say this is a terrible idea because it's not fair on the person who was the fastest among the men. I don't care about that. That's not the point. The point is that this would force investment in women at an equal level to men, because all of a sudden the rewards would be the same. You'd have exactly the same rewards, and you could do that with any sport. Okay, you could say, because we have mixed badminton, we have mixed tennis, we have mixed, basically any sport that couples would play together for leisure, like badminton, squash, tennis. These games always have some form of mixed environment because couples play them together. So we're just used to couples playing them together and we're happy and we think that's all fantastic. But that could happen in any sport. There's no reason why you couldn't take a male competitor, a female competitor, pair them together. You could even say, coxless pairs in the rowing, the coxless pairs has to be one man, one woman, forced to train together. All these things could be done. They could be merged and brought together in order to make it fair and in order to make the results of the women's achievements as important as the results of the men's across everything and result in a fair level of investment. Anyway, that was what I wanted to do today, just to kind of jump off from where we kind of finished off last time. I think this is the kind of thing that's never going to get fixed. It's not something that, you know, we're going to be able to do. It's a solution for a couple of 100 years' time, assuming we make it that far. But if there is anything we can do today, like encouraging boys and girls to play together more often, and by encouraging joint leagues and having kids play together for longer, as long as is possible, without creating the split, we make the split. We say, no, you go that way, you go that way. We do it. We do it with kids all the time. There's no reason for it. Just take it away and let kids play together. Let them compete together. That has to be the right way to do things. Anyway, I have to go now. I've got to go and turn the oven off. So thank you for watching this video. I hope this was of interest to you. If there's any comments, let me know in the comment section down below. Feel free to like, share and subscribe as usual, etc. Click the little bell to stay notified. You can get me through my email address, which is juliettesnoir@gmail.com, or the website juliettenoir.uk. Look forward to talking to you again, and as ever, bye! Bye!